Are the United States and Russia enemies? And if they are, tell me why. But before you answer, please look at this following clip and then comment below what you're thinking.
А кто Берлин-то взял штурмом? Американцы, что ли? Англичане или французы? Красная армия. Подзабыли?
It truly feels like the rest of the world has forgotten what the Russian people and their ancestors have done for this world. You know, this timeline would be completely different if the Red Army was not fighting on the Eastern Front against the German Nazis. And time has passed, and yet it seems like what were once before allies have turned into the worst of enemies. And it didn't start now. I know a lot of you guys are going to start talking about recent times. Oh, it's the weapons that NATO and the United States have been sending to Ukraine. No, we got to look way back. All right? This started not even before the war had already ended against the Nazis. Are you guys familiar with the General George Patton?
War shouldn't be over, and we should stop pussyfooting about the goddamn Russians. We're going to have to fight them sooner or later anyway. Why not do it now when we got the army here to do it with? Instead of disarming these German troops, we ought to get them to help us fight the damn Bolsheviks.
George, you better shut up. This line may be tapped.
Well, I don't give a damn if it is. I'll tell you something, Beetle. Up until now, we've been fighting the wrong people. Look, you and Ike don't have to get involved. You're so damn soft about it. You leave it to me. In 10 days, I'll have us at war with those sons of bitches, and I'll make it look like their fault.
Patton, a famous general of World War II, was known to have said, "We have been fighting the wrong enemy all along, but while we're here, we should go after the bastards now, because we're going to have to fight them eventually." I'll say this, the Third Army alone, with very little help and with damn few casualties, could lick what is left of the Russians in 6 weeks. This is a man who was an ally to the Soviets at that time, talking so badly about them. Of course, it would foreshadow the Cold War and perhaps the Second Cold War that we're in now, but we would have never gone to this if it wasn't for the demonization of the Soviet culture in popular movies, in video games, in TV shows, in just pop culture in general, the Red Scare. It was what we were talking about for so long in American society. And you know what? It makes no sense because the opposite in the Soviet Union, it seems like they were embracing Western culture much better than what the Americans were dealing with in their society. You know, people were going under their chairs thinking there was going to be nuclear disaster. And if there was going to be, it would have probably been started by the United States. This is not something new to us. We do this all the time. We like to provoke things. This is the reality that we live in. I mentioned that the Soviets were much better at assimilating to Western culture because in reality, let's be real, you know, they wanted to embrace it. And what better thing to send over to the Soviet Union than music? Music broke a lot of borders. And in 1991, a few months before the Soviet Union would collapse, Metallica would be playing in Moscow, known as the biggest rock concert in all of history. A record-breaking concert was happening in the Soviet Union, you know, and there were so many Soviets that they could probably, if they wanted to, you know, grab some weapons and go conquer Berlin again. But guess what? They didn't. They were rocking and rolling to Metallica, embracing their culture, embracing, you know, popular culture of the West. Are these people that hate America? Are these people that want the America to fall? 1 million people rocking and rolling doesn't sound like these are evil people that want the West to fall, or America, you know, in particular. This is lunacy. You'd have to be crazy. Plus 1 million people listening to Metallica rocking and rolling. They could have been armed and, like I said, taken Berlin again if they wanted to. But no, that's not what they did. They enjoyed their time, and they probably, if those people are alive today, are probably talking about the best rock concert they've ever been to. So it seems like a little bit one-sided, right? It just seems like paranoia from the United States. Now, the question in the beginning was, are the United States and Russia enemies? Yes, they are. By now, they are. We went down this road since Soviet times, and it's just snowballing into what we have now. And music's not the only thing that the United States sent. It also sent a little bit of poison via McDonald's.
Well, it's been 14 years in the making, and today, finally, McDonald's threw open the doors to its first restaurant in Moscow. And make no mistake, this was an event of major gastronomic proportions. Our Moscow correspondent Don Murray savored the cultural revolution that surrounds the Big Mac's arrival in Moscow.
A feast in the time of plague. The words of Alexander Pushkin, Russia's greatest poet. In this new time of troubles, on the square that bears his name and statue, Pushkin now contemplates McDonald's. And the question is, was this the feast he wrote about? They opened what may be the world's largest hamburger stand this morning, and Pushkin's descendants crowded in. Their verdict on the feast was mixed. I don't like it at all, he says. It's not Russian.
It's very beautiful, but I expected more, I think.
This woman doesn't know what she just ate, but she says it was unusual and delicious.
And it's just really interesting to watch because now Russia has kicked out McDonald's because of the sanctions. And, they brought in their own thing. But just the way the world has been working, it seems like everything that the West has sent to Russia, because now they're enemies, they're throwing it back to the West. America. When I say the West, I'm just referring to America. Because let's be honest, America has been the bully of the West, and everybody follows what my country says to do. It's unfortunate because it kind of takes away from other countries' independence and I don't know. It's sad. But anyways, it's very interesting how life has played out in Russia and how life has played out in the United States. Russia's been demonized so long in the United States, and then Russia has just been taking it. It took it when it was a Soviet Union, and it's taking it now. But now Russia's kind of fighting back. It's letting America know, hey, by the way, these are the things that you sent. This is how we embraced it, but you've betrayed us, and we're sending it back. I asked you guys in the beginning whether you thought if Russia and America were enemies, but we already know the obvious yes. Okay? And let's not confuse the people of Russia and the people of the United States, because the people are something different, but the governments are enemies. But tell us why, right? Let's try to figure out why. Now in modern time, it's very simple to understand why the United States is enemies with Russia. And again, it falls more on the United States' lap. Let's listen to some American politicians talk about Russia and what they think about Russia and what they want to do with Russia.
Former U.S. National Security Advisor Zbigniew Brzezinski says that the U.S. should provide weapons to Ukraine in its fight against Russian-backed insurgents. At a conference at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington, Brzezinski also emphasized that Russia is not ready for even a small war with the West. Brzezinski added that the U.S. and its European allies should continue imposing sanctions on Russia.
I'm doing everything within my power by executive orders to bring down the price and address the Putin price hike. In fact, we've already made progress since March inflation data was collected. Your family budget, your ability to fill up your tank, none of it should hinge on whether a dictator declares war and commits genocide in half a world away. To help deal with this Putin price hike, I've authorized the release of 1 million barrels per day.
It seems like we're in some sort of TV show where they're playing a prank on us to see how dumb we are, how many things we'll believe. This man, who's our president right now, just said, 2 years ago, mentioned that the Putin gas spike or something like this. And then he goes on to call him the crazy words like, I've never heard any other president call our presidents dictators or murderers for starting wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam, Korea. We have so many, right? But nobody ever imposed sanctions on us. Nobody ever went and said to their people, hey, the gas prices are going up because of the war halfway across the world. That makes no sense. The United States is rich in oil. So why would this man go out of his way? And you could hear him when he talks. He can't even say some words because he wants to say Putin, Putin, Putin. It's like, it really feels like we're in some sort of prank show. So you can see how he talks about Putin. Of course, our countries are going to end up being enemies, right? Now, let's get to the part where everybody wants to hear about. The weapons being sent to Ukraine by the United States and its allies in NATO. Of course, this is real. Of course, this is going to push our countries to be enemies. And I believe that that is just the pinnacle, the climax of our, I don't want to say like the R word for being dumb, but it's such a high level of stupidity by the United States to push the Russians away. You know, the Russians embraced our culture, from our food and our music and our clothing. Like, music embodied a lot of culture for the Soviets when we pushed the music, like dressing, the way you act, the way you speak. I can't tell you that there was people randomly wanting to learn Russian back in the Cold War just because they thought it was a cool thing. But in the Soviet Union, definitely it must have been a cool thing to learn English and be hip and learn music, right? So think about it. The NATO conflict, the United States-led conflict in Ukraine has escalated us to the point of being enemies. And it's not hard to research, do a little bit of research and see, you know, that this is real. This is the real deal. And it's very unfortunate, like I said, because it seemed like the Soviets and what is now Russia, they really wanted to be part of the West. And we just pushed them away into the arms of China. And it's kind of like, it's kind of like the upside down world, because a lot of American presidents warned us not to do this. A lot of military analysts wanted us to never push Russia to the Chinese, but it just ended up happening. So what did China do? The enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? It is unbelievable that we were that dumb. So with all that being said, I'm looking for a lot of people's comments to know what you're thinking. You know, I made this video because it makes me so angry. It makes me angry that we got to this point. How do you guys feel about that? You know, I know America has such a bad track record. Like, we just do the bad thing over and over again. But how could we be this dumb? I know we were bad as a country, but if you're bad and you get away with it and you do it over and over again, you would think you would get a little bit smart. But this has to be the dumbest thing in all of the America's history, to make enemies with the largest country in the world, with the population that's highly motivated, with rich culture, you know. Damn it. I'm making this video because I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated that we're going down, spiraling down out of control with this hate. And if you're still watching, I've calmed down a little bit because I was really getting a little bit overwhelmed with the anger and disappointment. I'm an American citizen who's living in Russia, and I've never experienced any hate. I've never seen like anti-American propaganda. And this is the truth. You know, I'm free to say this. I don't care about Russia enough to lie for Russia. I'm a proud American, and they respect that. I've never been approached by anybody to hate America and to speak bad about it. Every time I've ever pointed out some things that's wrong with my country, it's been out of love for the United States, because I'm a patriot. I served in the Marine Corps in a time of war, in a war that made no sense, and yet the world forgave the United States and never sanctioned us. And it's just frustrating that we're playing putting like the cloth over people's eyes and telling them what we're seeing, and it's all false. You know, like America is continuing to double down and triple down on this Russia's evil thing, man. And if it fails in this generation, if it fails and the people didn't say, no, wait a minute, this is not true, then it can potentially ruin our society, because people are getting tired of the lies. So like I said, I've calmed down, and just understand that this video is being made out of love for America and hate for the hate that it's caused upon the Russian people and its culture and its country in general. But it's sad because we're enemies. We're enemies. Well, at least the governments are, but the people know. But man, you know that in America, the government controls everything. I hope there's a chance to get out of this with the new president. Comment all your thoughts. Thanks for joining me. Bye.
You're saying privately, behind the scenes, that you're cooking up a deal, and then you're saying publicly that this is up for Ukrainians to decide. Those are two totally different things. I understand that diplomatic discussions are sensitive and you don't want everything to come out, but those are two totally different positions.
Elise, what do you think happens behind closed doors when people are discussing issues internally through the interagency?
This is not discussing issues. This is talking about a deal that the U.S. was cooking up.